We're good.
Hey, what's going on, softball fans? Thanks for checking out another episode of the Going Yard Podcast. Today, we are joined by Lisa Rizzo. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us during these crazy times.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here. This is the most social interaction I've had in a very long time. So I love this.
Awesome.
I was about to say, we've had to, usually where Dan's sitting, we sit side by side to do these things. So this whole quarantine's made us readjust and up our game and all of these things. And like you said, these are kind of we don't get to go to the field to coach anymore or do any of those fun things or train any athletes in person. So this is our, we've always podcasted, but this is our real outlet, all the enthusiasm that we have at those, we've been really bringing into these interviews in the past month or so. That's for sure.
Awesome. I mean, Dan looks is Dan down on the brown couch?
Yep,
he looks
that's
so
me.
comfy there. So, I mean, he's got a nice, comfortable couch. You're in your kitchen. I'm in my kitchen. I mean, we're in our home setting, which is really cool and comfortable. So make the best of it.
If this camera wasn't in front of me, I would have my feet up, but I don't want to.
Right, you probably do already, actually.
Lisa, we always like to start our podcast with your story growing up. And, for us, we've always believed that that's kind of that's the foundation of where you end up as a coach, kind of in a way. And, obviously our ideas and thoughts and principles kind of maybe change and morph a little bit and we learn from others. But, that growing up is the foundation and the roots that, the sport kind of gives you. So what was softball like for you growing up and in your area? Because every area is different as well. The environment. We've talked to girls that are women that had to play t-ball or had played slow pitch until they were 10 or 12. It's always different. So what was it like for you?
So for me, honestly, growing up, my story growing up was really different, I would say, in a sense of what brought me to sports. Long story short, I grew up with a single mother. My father passed away when I was 4 years old. 2-bedroom apartment, government assistance, a brother and a sister. My mother worked 24/7 to raise us. And I had to find an outlet. So I always played sports, whether it's tackle, football, baseball, anything with my brother. That was just our thing to do to keep busy. And I loved baseball. So softball wasn't really hardcore like it is in other areas. I mean, I played baseball my whole, career, 0 to, I would say, 13 years old. But I loved baseball. I was a baseball pitcher. I was the only girl in the county striking all the guys out. And it's so funny because you guys remember that as you get older. I could go to a reunion and they're like, "Oh, you struck me out when I was 12." I'm like, I don't remember that. I'm so sorry you remember that, but I know they remember. But no, so I loved baseball. And then when I turned 13, I had to play softball. And I was like, what the hell is this big yellow ball? But I wanted to keep playing. So then I became a catcher because I had a really good arm. And it was really just my outlet because it was my escape from everything else, to be honest with you. So I didn't really have that family of recruiting or lessons or any of that story. I just played street ball. I was good. I loved it. And then I played high school ball and I didn't play on a club team because they're expensive. I mean, it was not even talking. My mother didn't even know what a club team is. I don't think I really know. And then a friend of mine said, "Hey, do you want to play in my club team as a guest player to showcase?" I was like, okay. So I played and then I had all these colleges come up to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I could do something with this. I think I'm kind of good. And then I told my mom, I think I could play college softball. And that's really how it went about. And then I ended up playing college softball and making a great career out of it. Go figure. So that's my softball story in a nutshell.
Well, I want to dig into this because I read about it. And, as I'm reading your story, I realize a lot of the people that we've had on our show and not taking anything away from them at all, but they've always a lot of them had 2 supportive parents. And it was two parents at the same time. And I thought about it, I'm like, there's a lot of kids out there that only have a mom that's raising them or only have a dad right now. And so talk about the power of what you learned from watching your mom do whatever it took to make sure you and your brother were taken care of, whether it was in sports or just in life in general. What did that do for you?
I mean, actually, it was my brother, my dad passed when I was 4, my brother was 7, and my sister was 9. So she actually started
sister
cleaning
too.
she started cleaning houses to raise us. So she went from, stay-at-home mom to cleaning my classmate's house. And that was something that I had to go through myself. Like, oh man, my mom's cleaning her house, but like, she was just such a worker, and she never made us feel poor, which is something that I could get emotional talking about it, but she never made us feel poor. She like gave us everything that she could. She always like threw New Year's parties. They always just put big get-togethers, even if it was from the dollar store. And that work ethic of seeing somebody have no other choice but to work and grind and do what you have to do. There's so many people out there with stuff handed to them, and it's just a different type of human, I'll be honest with you. And she taught me that work ethic. And that's why I'm so grateful for everything I have in life, for a client, for an athlete, being paid to do this, having my staff. That's awesome. It just makes you extra grateful for things. It makes you never want to go back to that life at the same time, and to really have a goal of success for me. I always say I'm going to keep building until I put my mom in a beautiful guest house in my, glorious home. That's just how I am as a person. I don't have any connections. I still don't really have connections. I just I go to my own way. My favorite song is My Way by Frank Sinatra. I do things my way, and hopefully somebody sees that I'm doing good stuff and, takes notice, and I build off of that, but it's my mom's work ethic for sure.
That's
and
beautiful.
Being a good person and being a good person, doing the right thing at the same time.
One
That's
thing I
beautiful.
got, it's incredible. Honestly, I'm sitting here listening, and it's incredible. It's touching. It's moving. It's life though. But one thing I want to ask, and you're listening to this, because I think there's a lot of girls that probably, or even boys, but girls specifically, when you stand out like you do with your personality and your work ethic, there's a lot of hate that can come from that. And a lot of girls can be resentful, and she's over there playing with the boys and she thinks, this or that. What was that like? Did you deal with some of that? Or was it not really an issue because you're just, nose to the grindstone, hardworking, nothing's going to stop you from achieving what you want to?
I was always the type of person that I really believe that if nobody's talking about you, then you're not doing enough. You know what I mean? Especially now, being the only really female business owner in my area at this level, I'm like so stone cold to it now, But growing up, it is hard at times. But honestly, for me, I just focused on myself. And, I just focused on what I had to do. And I knew that if somebody was talking bad about me, or somebody was hating on me, or any of that nonsense, even bullying in high school or any type of bullying, that's their own issue. They don't like something within themselves, that they're so negative and just down and out. Get over it. Put your attention somewhere else. Am I bothering you that much by being awesome? And that's what I try to teach my cat's in the background. That's what I try to teach our girls, because if you think about it, like I'm very close to New York City. And before this pandemic, I used to go there for brunch, and it's 20 minutes away. And you drive to the city, and really in Harlem, you see a lot of like basketball courts and kids playing basketball outside, and they're amazing. They're amazing. But they're not going to get to that level because they don't have that path like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So I try to be a voice for those kids. I try to be a voice for the girls that, aren't going to be D1 on TV, because it's only like 1% of that. And I try to be a voice for people that want to make instruction into a career, because who says you can't? Personal training is a career. Why isn't private hitting lessons a career? So I try to like just give hope to the young girls out there that are dealing with certain things and feel like they're growing up with nothing. I mean, I'm the example of growing up with nothing. You just focus on your goal, set a vision of what you want, and you just work to that 24/7. Don't lose that vision, for sure.
That's excellent. Now, you had said that you went to your mom and said, hey, I feel like I could play some college softball. How did you come to choose the school that you went to? And, what did you have? How many options did you have? And what made that school the school that you were like, all right, this is the one I'm going to?
So I had about 5 schools approached me that weekend. And that's the only weekend that I played, really. And this one school was close to me. It was D3. I didn't want to go D1. I really didn't want to. I had a D1 school approach me. I didn't want that commitment. I didn't want to be away from home. I think I was honestly a homebody and I'm scared of leaving, even though it wasn't like the greatest story. I wanted to be close to home. And I worked, and I wanted like a good work life school balance. I wanted to have fun with my friends, and it was close too. And it was a beautiful area. It was trees and horses, everything I didn't know growing up. And it was really calming and awesome. So that's really why I picked it. And it's a great school too.
It's awesome.
What were some of the challenges going from what you were doing into this? Some colleges are probably better than others, but you kind of end up in this structured, you got to be at weight training. You're going to eat as a team. You're going to do that. Like, what was that like going into that environment where, you kind of almost per se raised yourself a little bit. You had a lot of time on your own. And now maybe I say this in a way, like maybe you didn't have all the guidance that like a dual parent family would have, like, this parent's always here. And now you go to college and you went from doing things on your own at your own time in a little bit to now you're going to do this, and this because the coach says you're going to.
Yeah. I mean, our school was very, very good. I coached a Division I school. So, and our school was D3, but we were better than a D1 school that I coached. So I think a lot of that depends on the D1 school you're talking about. I tell my athletes all the time, but it was hardcore. I went from just being a badass in high school, playing, being myself, living. And then I had all this structure with girls that, pretty much had some normalcy. So it was hard for me to kind of feel comfortable at first. So I became more of like the jokester, and I'm still like that, but I that helped me cope and be light. And that structure was what I needed. Honestly, that was what was missing from everything else, because now I use that structure in my daily life constantly. I actually liked it. Waking up, having somebody ask where I was, like just having to be somewhere at a certain time. And my mom did the best she could, but she's by herself. Now I know I'm 35. I have a 9-month-old. Now I know you get it as you get older. You look at your parents differently. Mm-hmm. And now I have to be somewhere. I have to do stuff. And I loved it. I loved it so much. I just felt like I was important, and I didn't care what division it was. I was important. We were great. We went to the World Series, D3 World Series. It was awesome. I was 4 batter all 4 years. I made a name for myself, and that's all that I wanted to do by being myself still, So.
Good, Tyler.
I'll say, and getting an education along the way, which is
getting an education, exactly.
And one thing real quick, and I'm seeing it so much over social media right now, is all these D1 athletes that are just now graduating when they were done playing softball last year because they either had the red shirt or, all of these things. So some of those things I think get forgotten just because of on-field success.
Yeah, I mean, every player is different. I train girls that have went D1, D2, D3, but it has to be what you're really looking for and what you want, I mean, so many people put pressure and D1, you got to go D1, you got to go D2. You don't. You have to do what you want. You're going to be there for 4 years.
Right. I have a feeling I'm really going to love your answer to my next question. We've had so many catchers on our show, whether it be the baseball portion of it or the softball portion. And I always hear that and you can see it, that catchers make the best coaches as well. So I got 2 questions. There's a 2-part question. 1, what makes a catcher a good catcher? And 2, why do catchers make great coaches?
Hold on real quick. And as a biased, we're 2 dads of catchers.
Of catchers.
Oh,
so.
Awesome. I hope my 9-month-old is a catcher, but I hope he's athletic, whatever she wants to do. Anyway, catchers, when I went to college, right, when I went to school as a freshman, and there was a senior catcher and other catcher, like 2 other catchers, and I was a freshman. And I'll never forget, the coach went behind home plate and he threw out some bunts, right? So catcher 1 goes to senior, she fields it, throws it down, great throw. the next girl, blah, blah. So how am I going to stand out? Everybody's great. You're all this, after a while, a lot of the talent blends in physically, but what makes you different is how you are as a person and mentally. So I said, all right, I need to be loud. These girls aren't saying anything. They're not yelling, Bud, mine. So those 3 girls went, and then my coach tossed mine. I was like, here I go. Bud, mine. Scooped it up, pop, fire. And everybody's like, who the hell is that girl? I was like, oh yeah, okay. And I started like, feeling myself a little bit more. And catchers are, number one, great coaches because you lead your field and you're very vocal. And you're also very patient, because I'll tell you, I caught pitchers where I'm just like this half the time, like, where's that pitch even going? Try and motivate them and being calm, not just berating them. I can't stand when a catcher shows that they're upset. And just being motivating. And that's the hardest thing, but that's the most important part as a private instructor, as a coach. You got to motivate. So you can't show when you're aggravated and over your pitcher throwing balls. And plus, you could read the field, you could read other people's body languages. I always say it's the only position in the field where everybody's looking at you, so everything you do as far as how you carry yourself, shake the umpire's hand, you always got to be a person of presence. So I think that has a lot to do with coaching for sure. I forgot the other question.
What makes you so badass? But I mean, you pretty much said it.
Oh yeah, because we get to run everything basically. And, we control we're the only position too, where we can throw outs or throw down girls or pick off girls and cause outs when nothing else is happening. So I always say we're the leaders of the field, but, make the pitcher feel like she's the leader of the field and the shortstop, but we're really the leaders of the field, but make them feel like they're the leaders of the field.
That's excellent.
It's funny too, and Dan will probably experience this with my son sometimes, like catching games, he'll just call time and run to the pitcher's mound. And I'm like, and it'll go, and after the game, we're like, what'd you go out and say to so-and-so? And he'll be like, oh, I was just asking him what was going on. Or, it's so funny, all these little details. And honestly, I think one of the things I love the most about when my son was catching was when he'd like set up on the corner and a pitcher would stick the pitch and we wouldn't get the call. And he'd be like, great pitch, great way to hit your spot, Like that psychology between catcher and pitcher and that motivational piece.
Yeah.
Pitch by pitch. And it's like I caught one inning of my life and took a foul ball to the face. I was like, I'm never doing this again. But, it's got to be like the best view of the house. But
yeah. And you have a special relationship with your pitch. I've called so many times just to make fun of my coach for a minute, stupid things like make her laugh. It's a fun position. It really is. And I try to have my catchers have fun with it and also let them know this is their first chance and opportunity to show who they are as leaders, as boss women, be positive, be respectful, and never let people see you sweat. You're a leader. And never let people also take advantage of you. You hold your own as well, which is life, really, in the workforce.
One thing we want to ask you about it, and you brought it up, is winning that World Series and what it's like, because, honestly, and for us and our whole podcast is really about helping people get to the next level. And that next level might be making your JV team. It might be being that varsity starter as a sophomore. And for the majority of people listening, it probably is going D3, maybe D2 or D1 if you're lucky. But I worked at a Division III school in McDaniel, and they have a pretty good softball team, and they've had success and made runs in the playoff. It's a big deal, and the whole school gets around it and rallies around it, and everybody is emailing each other, and the bus is out there and everybody's lining up watching the bus leave. What was that experience like, and when did you guys as a team realize, man, we got something pretty special here?
It's so funny because we have a chat going today, and we were actually talking today about it, reminiscing, and it was awesome. I mean, for me, just to get free stuff and clothes and sweats, I was like, this is great. But as a team, I felt so big, awesome. Everybody's taking video or walking out, and that's why when people say, oh, I decided just to go D3, it gets me so mad because I went D3 and I had an awesome career and I made something out of it. It's big in any arena, whatever is important to you should be the most important thing to you. You know, stop comparing yourself, athletes out there, softball athletes. Stop comparing yourselves to the girls on TV. That's 1%. Okay, I'm here to represent the other 99% out there, because you could do something with this, and you just should be grateful for where you're at and enjoy it. No more comparing, because I see that a lot with the girls at the facility, you know, with their teammates, or if this one went D1 and this one didn't. It's just as awesome. It's a great experience, honestly.
Well, you also hit a home run in the World Series, didn't you?
I did.
Talk about that. How's that feel?
You know, it was great. I mean, I went up there, I was 4 batter, and I always say a full mind is an empty bat, because I'm really big on the mental game. I'm really big with body language, self-talk, visualization. And I cleared my mind. I saw in my head where I want to put the ball, and I didn't just see it, just like, oh, think positive. I literally envisioned how it would feel after I hit that home run. I put it to work, because I was always very creative, because I had a lot of alone time growing up, you know, so my mind was always wandering. So I really envisioned hitting the home run. I went up there, and I was just so relaxed. I'll never forget that. I don't know why. It was my senior. I was so relaxed. And I just went up there and I just did what I do best. I just relaxed and performed. And there's no secret sauce to that. I don't even remember where the pitch was. I just did what I do, because I was relaxed and confident. And I knew what I wanted to do with the ball. Just
intent. You had the intent. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Now I feel extra awesome reminiscing about all this.
Well, yeah, I thought I'd bring that up. I also wanted to ask you this too. Now that you're a coach, before we start getting into talking about what you're doing as a private instructor, I also read about a situation when your mom had to work extra hard so you can get a private instructor, and it wasn't really a good experience for you, and that kind of like lit the fire for you in terms of how a private instructor should be. So if you could talk about that story, I think it's a really good story, and it's touching. It really is. But it's kind of cool that it fueled your fire and how you're supposed to be a private instructor for these people who are paying money to get lessons from you. Yep.
Well, basically, I mean, after I realized I could go to college to play, my mom hooked up with this guy who was the most popular guy in town, like the one that all the kids went to. And she's got his information, and she paid for me to go to a private lesson. And I went there, and he sat on the bucket, and I did T-swings, side toss. He kept repeating himself, drive your hips, head down, drive your hips, hands to the ball, hands inside, over and over. And it wasn't personalized at all. And I wondered if this was normal, because I had nothing to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody a lot of people were getting lessons, but is this what a lesson is? I mean, it seemed like he didn't care, and it bothered me because my mom worked really hard for that lesson. So I went there, we worked out at a field, but he also had a bravado about him that he was like the best hitting instructor. And that bothered me too. You remember those certain things,
Yeah.
I left, and my mom was like, "Did you like it?" Yeah. I said, "Yeah, I liked what I'm not going to say his name. I don't know if he's watching. But I was like, "Yeah, I liked it, but I don't want to go back." And because I thought to myself, my mom cleaned a 3-bedroom house to pay for this right now, and it wasn't, and it bothered me. And I thought about how many other kids he just takes their money and sits on the bucket and repeats things to. And I promised that I would never do that. And when I would train myself, I would train myself by creating different ways to train myself, because I get bored very easily too, and I want to do things quick and learn things quick. So I said, I don't want to go back to that instructor, but I remember him. And it's funny, because when I opened my first space, which was like a tiny little basement that flooded all the time, he called me to rent my tunnel. And I write this in my instruction course, CUDIT. And he came in, "Oh, how are you doing? Nice to see you." And I listened in, and he was doing the same damn lesson, saying the same stuff, not getting off the bucket the whole time, years later. And that bothered me. And so I just use it as my fuel to never do that, and create a way to teach people to never do that too.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a shame, honestly, because people like that give the whole profession, as it is for you, a bad rap because there's so many people out there that take it so personally and so personable towards the athletes they try. I know me and Dan do some work, and we do a lot of Sunday workouts. We did up until this, and man, I'll tell you, it didn't matter if we had 3 kids there or we had 12 kids there. Like we gave everything we had for that hour that they were there and the full attention. And like you said, you don't know what everybody's coming from, so like
Right.
don't just take it for granted because
Right.
you shouldn't. It's not fair. But
And I tell my trainers all the time, my CUDIT coaches, you are who they talk about at dinner with their grandparents. Oh, Johnny had a hitting lesson today, like that. You're special to them. I don't care if you have 12 lessons for the day. You are with them right now. And if you're not, then don't work, then don't be a hitting instructor, because you're devaluing our entire profession, which has been devalued for the whole time we had even a profession, which if it's still a profession, I made a profession. I created a way to make it a profession. And it is a profession, just like personal training is a profession. It's a profession. So if you're not into it and you're answering your phone in a lesson, don't do it.
Yeah.
So it gets me really mad. That's why.
what was it about the whole deal that made you want to become a coach? Because for it's not for everybody. You could take the best athletes in the world that don't make them great coaches.
Yeah.
What was it about coaching that made you want to do it so much?
I just love inspiring and motivating and seeing change due to me. It's not even that's the real richness that you feel after giving a good lesson. It's not the money. It's not. If you add it up, it's wonderful. Wow, this is great. But it's not that. If you focus on that, you shouldn't be really giving lessons. I love meeting somebody that's shy, getting them comfortable, getting them confident, having them do things in school that they may not do if they don't talk in class. I ask them, try to raise your hand in the Spanish class, seeing them grow and literally just changing who they become as young men and women, because I've trained baseball guys too, how to carry themselves, just everything that I don't know where I got it from, honestly. I just love seeing people, be the best version of themselves. I think it's because I think it's because I lost early. I lost a parent early, and I know how life is, and I feel like people take it for granted, and I just want to help them rock it and own it and own themselves, so maybe that's it.
I was about to say real quick. I was about to say, I want to ask you this because I think it might really stick with you in a way, is that as a coach, I've been doing it for 12, 13 years now. I've learned to enjoy the successes of the kids that I coach more than the ones I ever had in my own life.
Oh, 100%. 100%. A girl just texted me that she got into Scranton, or she's going to play at Scranton. And I was just, I love that, because I know what's happening the next 4 years for her, and that feeling, and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I just think when you do good, that's more rewarding than anything. And then good just flows your way. It's just the cycle,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll say I'm getting to watch Dan learn and grow as a coach right here with me every week. We do it, man. It's so much fun, and not just the kids, but to watch Dan, because he was so hesitant to kind of be a coach, and he's such a talented guy. He doesn't speak about it all the time, but man, he's musically talented. The videos he creates, he's funny, and I was like, man, if I could just take that talent that he has and just channel it into baseball or softball, it's going to be phenomenal. And it's been, and man, he's growing so much as a coach, and it's
awesome.
incredible to watch and see.
Well, because it's a work.
Well, I appreciate. Yes,
and
I appreciate that, Tyler. Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, there's a work ethic and a dedication. Like on this pandemic, I bought a guitar. I used to play in high school, so I bought a guitar. So I'm just trying to learn a couple from this guy Martin something on YouTube. Anyway, it's very Marty's music. That's what it is.
Marty's good. Yeah. Marty's good.
My God, I love him.
Marty's good.
But it's like, it's forcing me to go places of like learning again, and you could connect with players like that because we're so comfortable sometimes as coaches that you don't realize like this is new to them, so
yeah.
So I think
the biggest thing for me was when it came to coaching is I was always a decent player, but I didn't understand what I was doing to hit the way I did. Like, it was just one of these things. I guess it was muscle memory. I didn't understand what I was doing. And then when I was around kids and I saw like videos of slow motion and what kids were doing, then I was able to break it down because, you know, being around Tyler and just around a lot of the people we interview, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I normally do, and this is what this person is not doing, or maybe this person isn't like me, where they're going to be able to learn the way that I learned how to do that. So, you know, we'll have to switch it up. But it's seeing the game from a different angle is so strange. It's a weird adjustment. It really is. But then once you really, if you submit to it and basically say, okay, listen, I don't know everything, but one thing I do know is I can play baseball. So let's try to figure out what they're doing that I can improve, like one step at a time. And it's like, it's such a rewarding thing. I mean, I love it. Sorry, we went a little sidetracked there.
When it clicks, and when
talking about my
really,
story.
No, but when it clicks and when you see them really like zone in and try, and then they just reach a different level mentally that a lot of people don't push themselves to reach. Like, they have to get gritty. They have to get in a state of flow. They have to zone in. Like, you have to go there as a young athlete. And I think that's so powerful, you know? So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's transition to Challenge U softball. When did that all get started? What was the idea, and what was the path to get there?
So after college, I just worked a ton of jobs, and then I started giving lessons, and I worked at 2 colleges. I was coaching at 2 colleges, but I was giving lessons. And that's what most people do after they play a sport in college. You don't want it to leave. I say it all the time. You don't want it to leave. But the funny thing was, I didn't love coaching a team. It wasn't my thing. I mean, I respect all coaches out there, but it wasn't for me. I loved working one-on-one with kids. So I put that to the side. I left that, and I just started giving private hitting and catching and fielding lessons. And I was 21 when I started. And then after about 3 years, that's when it started blowing up. Because my girls were getting good, and I was driving all over the tri-state, everywhere. And I also was working at Verizon as a sales rep because I had to pay my rent. I was doing 1,000 things, honestly. And I was in the store, and I was talking to my friend Liz, and I was like, I want to make this into looking like a real business, you know, my outdoor little stuff. So she's like, what about like mobile softball, like the mobile phones that we have in here? I was like, oh my God, I love it. So I went home that night. I learned how to build a website. It was called Mobile Softball Training. Terrible website, but I made it like it was this real business, right? And I bought a
And you're pulling it up on your BlackBerry. You're pulling up on your BlackBerry Curve.
It was I was like BBMing people, like, hey, I have this real business. And it was like, but it looked like I made a logo. And I also bought a prepaid phone, and I kept it off, and I left a message. Hi, thank you for calling Mobile Softball Training. Please leave a message. Like, it was a real business, but it was just me in like a tiny apartment giving lessons with balls. So I started Mobile Softball Training, and I was just traveling, and my girls were getting good. And people were talking about me because I was like really in the lesson, and I was always working to master my craft, and I still do. And then years later, I said, I'm ready. We're going to get a tiny little space. So I rented a basement spot in 2011, and it was called Diamond Academy. It was baseball and softball. So then now I have people working for me, and you have people representing your name. I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. So I also had to learn how to be a boss too, which you learn as you go. You know, I was at some points a crazy boss, but I had baseball and softball, and I thought I had to have that because our rent is so expensive here. We're right by New York City, you know, and
Right.
We did that. We built it up a little bit, you know, and after that, in 2015, I said, screw it. I don't want baseball anymore. And I said, no more baseball. It's just going to be called Challenge U Softball. And I thought of the name because that's really what raised me. I was raised on going through challenges, conquer them. That's what sports is about. That's what life is about. Challenge U Softball. And I changed the name, changed the logo, and it was all girls only. And that's when it started taking off. And I made a little YouTube video. It's still up there. I look like I'm 10 years old, and it's on a little iPhone. It's, hi, I'm Coach Lisa. You know, that's what we're gonna do today. And it was when I first opened. And that's how I started, right? And years later, last year we moved into a 6,000 square foot spot. I have 10 trainers, 10 outdoor trainers that do camps. I have about 20 employees now. We train like 300 to 400 girls a week, camps everywhere. It's awesome. Sometimes I walk in the building and I'm like, I can't even believe whose is this space? You know, you never get comfortable with it, you know, like, whoa.
I'm for our listeners right now, our young listeners, because you said you worked at Verizon Wireless around the same time, 2008. That's when I worked at Verizon Wireless as well.
Great
so
person.
that's why I said that. I said the BlackBerry curve. But just for people listening, a mobile phone back then, especially if you had a Verizon phone, they didn't have iPhones yet. So a mobile phone back then, the internet you got on that was, it was iffy.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that you had the idea of doing that and the patch, that is so cool. Like I would have never, like I remember, because I had a flip phone, but I worked at Verizon, so they gave me a PDA or whatever it was, and so I had a big old BlackBerry, and I hated going on the internet on that thing because I'm like, this is too confusing. I can't do it.
I know, I know, but I thought like every business has a website. I have to create a website.
Yeah,
what am I gonna do?
That is so awesome. That is so cool that you had that mindset back then.
Thank you. I just honestly, I'm still like that. I think you really just need a clear vision of what you want, and and be obsessed with it. You know, I do a lot of like law of attraction work and all that stuff, and it really works. Honestly, you got to see what you want and you take the action to do it.
Excellent.
One thing I want to ask, and you know, me and Dan kind of took this leap last year a little bit by turning this fun little evening that we had together and turning it into a podcast. Year and a half later, we're turning it into a business.
Awesome.
And you know, we're in that we were rolling. Quarantine hits, kind of throws everything sideways on us.
Right.
But we really don't have any pressure because we do have full-time jobs and we do make money outside of it. But what's the stress like in a way with this happening? Because I'm sure many of your athletes, many of your families are impacted by what's going on in the country. None of us are certain about what is going to happen when this thing reopens. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you've nonstop thought about this, and this. But how do you overcome that pressure of having all these employees and having all these athletes depend on you and all these families that, you know, you're tracking down payments or, you know, they're not showing? How do you balance all that now? Because that's way different than just managing stuff on the field as a coach and, hey, fix this in your swing or, you know, all that.
Yeah. I try to be positive. If you look at all the Instagram posts that I've posted from when this started, you would never know that I'm a business owner who has a big, heavy overhead monthly and a 9-month-old and a mortgage. You would never know that I was going through this because there's enough of that out there. And I just really try to distract people. So on my Instagram, I say, hey, you know, we're renovating the bathroom. That consists of me painting the bathroom a new color so they could look forward to walking to something newer and nicer. I try to be as positive as possible because the news is on 24/7 and it's doom and gloom. But I also am not, you know, ignorant to it. And I say, I hope you're all well and safe out there and healthy. At the same time, I really push and try to motivate our girls and our families to do something with this time. You know, the money will come. The money's always going to come, but the time with your family is never going to come again like this unless you make it. The time with yourself is never going to come like this again. What are you going to do with this time? This is a gift from God, even though at the same time it's hell. It's a weird balance, you know, but I just try to be positive and, you know, besides like the financial stuff of trying to get this and that, I really just try to be positive and motivate my employees like, hey, we're coming back stronger than ever. It's going to be a great grand opening, you know, stay safe. And I also do a lot of drill videos on our YouTube channel to have our girls work. And I tell them what drills to do too. So they're distracted. Everything now, especially with social media, is just so sometimes dark and heavy. And I feel like our kids are growing up too early. You know, my kid's not having a phone until she's like 20 years old. I mean, what is out there now? I'm gonna have to deal with that. But I just try to be like, can make them confused. Like when they're scrolling and say, why is Coach Lisa so positive right now? Wow. What is she painting over there? You know, that's what I do. And I think that helps me too. And it helps my athletes and my families, just an escape, you know, some hope, really. Because if I could get through it as a business owner, we all could get through it, as long as we're healthy though, you know.
Right. Yeah. No, that's excellent, because my next question was going to be about, you know, during this time, you know, you could look at it one of two ways, that this is a curse or this is a blessing. Some people, when it comes to the sports, some people are working right now. They are hitting off the tee. They are getting that extra work online with a private instructor. They're watching videos. They're doing all that. But also there's that mental game part of it too. And you were just talking about, so at this moment now, I mean, you talked about how important it was to stay positive at this moment now. And obviously a lot of people can't financially, either continue with online lessons or even start online lessons. But for those who can, or for those who want to, you know, at least go on YouTube and try to find something, how important right now, excuse me, is making sure that your mental game is in check. Making sure that, hey, you're getting up off the couch and you're swinging the bat if you every opportunity you can, even if you can't swing at your house, you can, you know, whatever, you can pretend you have a bat and make those swings. How important is that right now?
It's beyond important, and this is the time to do any mental work because nothing is going on. So this is the time to train your mind. So one thing that I tell our girls to do is, you need, and our guys, any sport, you should by now have an affirmation. And an affirmation is a story of how you see yourself performing with a bat on the field. What do you look like? What's the situation? How are you on, you know, as a team player? Where are you in this? And you read that affirmation. I actually read mine every morning and night, and then I change it sometimes because I want to change a little bit. Anyway, you read it in the morning, right when you wake up, within the first 30 minutes of waking up. It's just a visualization exercise. And then you read it before bed. And it forces you to visualize. It forces you then to get great emotions and feel good. Hey, Bambi. And it forces this, because you then have to imagine. So if you start training yourself to imagine and trick your brain into thinking it's real, it's called functional equivalence, you start to feel good. And when you feel good, you want to get your butt off the couch and go work. You start to take small, subtle actions to hit that because you believe it. You know, so I'm really big in visualization. All I do is talk the mental game. The whole CUDIT course, my private instructor course, the whole course one is mental. But for my coaches to fix themselves a little bit, though, for you guys to carry yourselves in a certain way with body language, self-talk, visualization, now is the time to get your mind right, your body right, and who you are as a person. There's endless information on the internet to do that, on YouTube too, for sure. So now's the time for this. Nothing else is going on, and you emerge a different person after this.
Love it.
It's awesome. It's awesome. We've kind of, as we do in this podcast, sometimes like we have a framework and then we make lefts and rights and swerve on down the road. But are there any topics that we haven't dove into yet that, you know, you want to talk about, or anything that we haven't asked you yet that you want to bring up and you want our listeners to hear about?
Yes, I want to talk about my hitting coach certification program. And we kind of touched on it a little bit, but in 2015, I was asked by a dad, very arrogant guy, arrogant to everybody, knew it all, wealthiest guy, that type of person. I was in my little tunnel and he said to me, what's your real job? What's your real job? What do you do really? And I said, this is my real job. I'm a private hitting coach. And I took that and I held it. And then I went on a 2-year journey. I studied the science of the swing. I went to doctors. I went to physical therapists. I went to batting analysis experts. And I created CUDIT concentric hitting. CUDIT concentric hitting is simply using your body to hit. When I first started my facility, I'll never forget, I logged in and I said, you type in best hitting drills. And everybody on the internet, it was all philosophies, rotational, linear, this, that. And there was just a lot of ego, I felt. Who's right? Who's wrong? And if you say something, this guy doesn't agree with you, blah, blah, blah. Whole big thing. So I said, I just want to go on this journey and study what are the muscles doing? So I went on the journey and I created CUDIT concentric hitting, and I studied what the best baseball guys do and what the best softball girls do, and it's identical. We have 3 loads. It's called eccentric movement and concentric movement. When you release it, it's all identical. Whether you start your hands here, whether you start in a load, whether you start your hands here, none of that matters. Once you start your rhythm of your swing, because of technology, we can see it's all identical. So I'm so tired of the gurus, you know, saying it's this way or the highway. Well, now we could say it's here because it's science. Technology, we can see what the body does. So I created a concentric hitting, and also it's a hitting coach development path so that they can have a good career, how to give great lessons with drill interval training, and how to train the mind in the lesson through what's called the CUDIT VBS system, visualization, body language, self-talk, and how to make a business out of it. I teach them marketing, how to greet their clients, because you have drills all over the internet, but you know, it's way more than that. You have to be a certain person, how to connect with families, you know, how to get a kid that's shy to work in a lesson. So the CUDIT concentric hitting coach course is for anyone out there. I didn't want people out there that loved hitting to feel like they couldn't make a career out of it. Just because you didn't play college softball, just because you didn't play baseball, it doesn't matter. If you love the art of hitting and you're motivational and you love it, this is how you do it. So I wanted to create a school for it. That's what I did. And now I have coached 15 states and Canada, baby. Boom.
That is awesome. So for the listeners that just heard that, and even for the podcast hosts that just heard that, so what is
I got you guys.
You know, how
awesome.
how
it's
long
a whole 300
how
page
long
course and all that.
What's that?
It's a whole it's an online program. It's about 300 pages. It takes about 2 months to complete. There's videos of me talking constantly, drills. Course 1 is all about who we are as coaches and how we carry ourselves. Course 2 is basically the science of the swing. Course 3 is drill interval training, how to take one drill and amp it up our style to get the mechanic in them quick, but also train the mental game at the same time. So we have like CUDIT words of the week. We have 10, like confidence, grit, focus, certainty. And then we kind of gear the lesson towards that. It just creates the highest hitting lesson. It really does. It's not just drills. It's the experience, you know.
That's excellent. That was actually my question. If you dive, like how long it takes and what it consists of. That's so cool that you do that. Awesome.
I think we're listening to the next Major League female hitting coach. Then.
I don't want to work for anybody though. That's the only thing.
That's what makes you even cooler. That's what makes you even cooler. Like, no, I don't feel like working for anybody but myself.
No, and I want people to be their own boss too. So I teach you how to do that in the course, and it's cool. I mean, I only accept 10 coaches per biannual seminar, so you have to apply and everything. I want a certain type of person, you know. Not about quantity. I want just good. It's a certain type of person that I want. And then we have a webinar, and it's me and you talking, and we go over the course, and then you take an exam, and then I blow you up, and you enter the forum, and I keep training you. How to deal with the crazy parents, you know, all that good stuff. It's all
That's excellent.
What about bad USSSA umpires?
Oh man, you know what? You just gotta breathe, deep breathing, and know that karma is wonderful.
That it is.
So how do you teach how to get tossed out of a game the right way? I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I'm Italian. Listen, I'm patient to a certain degree though, you know.
That's excellent. If you could go back in time and talk to your younger self and give yourself advice, what would you say?
You are a rock star, and you will be a rock star the rest of your life, and it's all okay. It's all okay. It's going to be great.
That's awesome.
It's going to be great. You know, to avoid those downs so much, you know, it's going to be great.
Best one awesome. Yet. That's awesome. Great.
Thank you.
Lisa, you're so optimistic. You're so energetic. It sounds like you have so many things you want to accomplish, but what would be some of your goals in the next 3 to 5 years? Maybe not. I mean, and they don't have to just be about the facility and the online stuff and, all that. But what would be some of your goals you'd like to accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years?
The next 3 to 5 years, I definitely want to blow up CUDIT more. I really want it to be a standard for hitting coaches everywhere. I just don't, I don't know big name coaches. I didn't go to a big school. So the fact that it's in 15 states in Canada is really, really awesome. And I'm so grateful for that. I want that as like a required standard for anybody giving hitting lessons, because it should be, because they're a lot of money and you're working with kids, So I really want to get that on the map more with any help, guys, any help that you got over there. And for my family, I am starting to look into real estate, and we're going to be investing in real estate and renting out homes for people. And that's our goal. So we have a little more passive income as well. And I could spend more time with my daughter and build our family. So
that's excellent.
That's really what I want to do. I want to relax a little bit more too.
I don't see that happening.
I know I get excited for different things, but like, I don't want to be gone as much. That's what I should say. I don't want to work from home as much, get home late.
Yep.
You guys know what I mean.
No. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's excellent. I love it. Looking forward to watching you grow as a person and as a business. It's going to be awesome to see. And we need to check back in with you down the road for sure.
Thank you. I love that. I appreciate you guys a lot.
Yeah, no problem. We love to ask this question because we love the fact that this podcast has not only linked us up with people that we would have never even had a chance to have an opportunity to talk to, just because we're in Pennsylvania and Maryland. So like, unless we go to a game somewhere and you're coaching or somebody's pitching or whatever it is, we might never have had these chances. So we've been linked up and we've been blessed with these stories and these people and these stories of hope and getting to the next level. And we also love that it does that for our listeners. So if you could recommend anyone to come on to our show to give that same value to our listeners and to us, who would that person be?
The first person that comes to mind for me is Matt Lyle of the Hitting Vault. And the reason I like him is I just feel like he's a little bit of an OG like me, I believe he was homeless at one point, and he had a vision to create a hitting drill website and program. And I love that because he just teaches the exact same way that I do. He breaks it down, and Matt Lyle, 100%. He's gone through challenges, and now he's made a big name for himself. I love his drills.
He sure has.
Yeah, I love his drills, and then we use those drills and CUDIT and just kind of, use drill interval training with them. He knows what he's talking about. He's simple, less is more, goes right to the science of it. No ego with him. He's just, I never met him, but you could just feel people sometimes, without talking and stuff. So
I'll say, for anyone who doesn't follow him on Twitter, they're like wasting
time.
I mean, like Twitter, and honestly, I mean, like you brought it up, like Twitter's probably the worst of the worst for like this person, and it's disgusting.
I don't even have to challenge you. I don't even know what's on there. We don't.
Yeah, no, it's a shame, really, because it could be a great platform, but because I mean, like his Twitter account is phenomenal with some of the even the quotes and stuff he puts up the video. It's unbelievable. Honestly, it just
great. He just seems like a great guy, honestly, and he loves what he loves what he does for a living, which is key.
He's everywhere. I mean, I could be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and if it's not us posting it, someone else is, and it's like, gosh. Yeah.
Let's get him on.
That's a good recommendation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, he kind of reminds me of like Brian Kane, right? He's like everywhere too, like that, all over the place or things like that. But yeah, we'd love to have him on. He'd be phenomenal. His story is incredible. Yeah. Lisa, for those of our listeners who may not follow you, where can people find you on social media, your website, the training, like wherever people want to get information to get a hold of you, where can they get it at?
So our Challenge You Instagram is Challenge You Softball. Our YouTube, which is all the drills, is youtube.com/challengeyoussoftball1. Our website for the facility is challengeyoussoftball.com. And if you're not within the tri-state area and you want to become a certified CUDIT concentric hitting coach and give lessons, that's at gocudit.com, GOCUDIT.com. And the Instagram is gocudit.com. You'll get a great idea of what it's about. And you'll check out the testimonials and, and how I'm really proud of the program. It really has changed people's lives and allowed for a side thing that they love to do. And for some people, it's taken over their career as well. So just type in Challenge You Softball and Go Cut It everywhere.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Love it, Lisa. You've been such a joy. We have one more question for you. This is one of my favorite questions because I feel that music really brings out the person, especially when they're in an opportunity to dominate. So if you had one at bat in a professional, actually we'll say, hopefully if there is a 2021 Olympics, if you had an at bat there, what song would you choose as your walk-up song to the plate?
Drake, Started from the Bottom, baby.
I think if you weren't listening to this interview, I think we all understand why you chose that. That's awesome.
Nothing fits better.
Awesome. Yeah, that's right. I love that song. I run a little faster when it comes on.
Better.
Thank you,
great.
guys.
Well,
this was awesome.